Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Fundraising Insiders. Just a couple of minutes ago, we didn't have a microphone. We didn't have the headphones. I was fuzzy. Nothing was working. But in the good entrepreneurial mindset of today's episode, we adapted and we overcame the problem. Today's guest this time is a founder. We will talk about her experience in fundraising, which is the other aspect of this podcast, not only talking to investors, but also hearing about those who've been through the journey. And I will ask you to introduce yourself in our 4 usual questions. What is your name? What did you study? And then what's your role in your company?
Perfect. My name is Jessica Chalk. I went to school for international business. My company is myStoria. myStoria is based off my own fertility journey. We are a app and platform to help patients navigate the healthcare system and advocate for themselves better within complex care settings.
Beautiful. So, of course, it always feels special when you don't just have an idea, but it's something that comes through your own experience. I hope this is all good now. I don't know if that's
You can.
TMI.
No holds bar. You
You're-
could ask anything. Yeah, ask anything.
And so this is a project that you came up with, I believe, 3 years ago. And you just closed a seed round of $1.6 million. And we're going to have a bunch of questions about this. How did you go about this journey? Why you're fundraising now and not before? Is there a reason for it? You are a second-time founder, I want to say. So you've been through that experience before. You've done it again. We're going to hear about the difference between how it happened before, how it happened now, the differences between the two, what was similar, etc., etc. For auditors and for yourself as well, we will do a little reminder of the podcast structure. We usually work with 3 20-minute segments. We're 10 minutes late, so apologies for that. We might have to compress some things. The way it usually works is the first part is the traditional podcast discussion, 1 or 2 key topics, and we just talk about it. Very natural, very standard. The second part is a bit more fast-paced, and this is where we turn onto the edutainment type of platform. We try to make it fun for everyone, for the audience, for yourself, for myself as well as a host. And we have a bunch of rapid fire questions, which are followed with a bit more development to come back on maybe some of those questions. So yes or no, option A, option B, this type of stuff. And
Okay.
at the end, we have 2 different options. Either we have a sort of a tier list about some elements, mainly regarding the pitch deck, because this is the key, let's say, this is the key spectrum through which we're trying to tackle the whole fundraising process. Or
Okay.
we can just expand on something we didn't really have the time to expand on in part 1, which is what we might have to do today because we only have those 50 minutes. So I suggest we start with part 1. I'm going to read out a bunch of questions, and this is a bit like a restaurant where you come in, you know you're going to have some choice, but you also trust the chef a little bit with what they prepared. So I'm going to read out a bunch of topics. Please tell me what you would prefer to discuss, and we'll get on straight to that. So
Okay.
for the first part, we have topic A, which is the deliberate or non-deliberate wait before fundraising this 1.6 million pounds, because you started 3 years ago. Why are you raising only now? Do you have starting capital, the decisions behind this, etc.? Topic B will be the exit to startup pipeline. You were an entrepreneur first, you had an exit, and then you started again, running through this journey, the differences. And then we will have more about the fundraising itself. So building a syndicate of investors. You have some angels in your company. You also have some VCs in the company. How do you work those together? How do you get a lead to lead? How do you work out the terms, etc.? And so finally, we could also do a bit more about your own pitch deck, how you went through this process, how you build it, do you get any support, something like this. Which we can keep for part 3 if you want. What would you want to go for?
I'd say kind of probably a combination between 2 and 3. The second and third
Right.
topics, I think, would be really great. However you want to kind of dive into that, or either one sounds good to me.
So 2 and 3 is coming out of the first company and then starting a raise for the second one, which is assembling the investors and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Part A, let's go. Run us through, of course, your previous company, TrafficSoda, what it was, very briefly. You had an exit not within 3 years. It took a bit more time. So run us through, how did you go from the start to there? Did you even fundraise for this process? And how the exit happened? And then we'll move to the next one.
Okay, that sounds good. So, TrafficSoda started off in 2013 as a content creation, marketing analytics company. We evolved that quite a bit. In 2017, I merged that business with another, and the founder of that was a very known entrepreneur, amazing entrepreneur in the kind of Toronto, Ontario area, Jim Estill. And so I had an opportunity to learn from someone that has built $1 billion company and merge my business and take both of those over and run with those. So that was a huge turning point for me in terms of my just ability to have mentorship at scale and my entrepreneurial journey. Then I built both of those businesses. So one was the marketing agency, and then the other one was publishing, up until 2023. And at the same time, I was going through my own fertility journey. And all throughout this process, since I was in an incubator in 2012 in Waterloo, Ontario, I had built incredible relationships with entrepreneurs and just the tech community. And a couple have been mentors and friends of mine all throughout TrafficSoda into what now myStoria, and I'll kind of talk about that evolution too. But one of those in particular, Carol Lehman. Carol was a mentor of mine. We would get together for wine every now and then and catch up all throughout TrafficSoda. I would ask for her advice, specifically on the merger and acquisition I did with Jim. And I reached out to her in 2023 and just said to Carol, look, I'm walking away from my fertility journey, love what I'm doing at TrafficSoda, but it's not lighting a fire under me anymore. And I have this idea to solve for my own problems during my fertility journey. Can we talk? And so we got together for probably, it ended up being 3 hours. I walked her through everything related to what I was thinking, how I was approaching the problem, who the buyer would be. And at the end of it, Carol had said to me, Jess, go for it. If you need cash and when you need cash, I'm there. Take it as far as you can. And I'm here as you need and whenever you need. And that really, for me, was the starting point of this journey with myStoria. So background on Carol, and I'll talk about next steps. Carol's built and sold a number of different tech companies. Her last company, co-founded with her co-founder Christine, was Exonify. They sold that to private equity for a lot. They did really well for themselves. And Carol and Christine are now invested into other entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs. So they're just incredible people to have behind you. So Carol and I had discussed, okay, well, what do I do with my current business? And she's like, sell it, go all in if you're going to go all in. And so I went on that journey of selling TrafficSoda. From there, I then funded the company for the first 9 months to get it to a place where we were at kind of pre-seed level. And at that point, just like Carol had said, when you need cash, I'm there, turned around. And Carol came in with first check, brought in Christine as well, her co-founder from Exonify, and several other kind of friends and family that had joined in our pre-seed round. So that really, for me, is how everything kind of came to be.
All right. So you had a first round before this seed round. Okay. Very interesting. So Carol was the first, acted as friend and family. So new friend,
Yep.
acquired friend, I want to say, with Christine,
Yep.
a bunch of other angels. And how big was this first pre-seed round? That came in 9 months. It's actually kind of funny because you're talking about fertility issues and
Yeah.
you fundraise a project for 9 months, and then 9 months out of it, it's actually mature. It comes out. There's more money coming in. It actually deploys. There's something quite philosophical in there.
Yeah. Fair
so
enough.
how big was
Didn't
this
think
first
about it
round?
like that. $1 million.
Gotcha. Okay. So 1 million. When you mentioned something that is not, unfortunately, not given to everyone, which is the ability to fund your own project for a certain amount of time until you can get it started. You mentioned you funded your own project for 9 months and then got a bit more investment.
Mhm.
For TrafficSoda, did you have this financial backing yourself, or did you do it another way around? You mentioned accelerators, you mentioned incubators. Did you have different, say, initial pots of funding for the two projects? And how does it vary between when you're the one putting the money behind versus when you might be maybe a bit more struggling or depending on someone else to put the first coins in the machine?
Yeah. So with TrafficSoda, I raised a small round to kind of get us going. So we raised 300,000 in convertible debenture from two investors. After that, the company was built off revenue. And so that was
Right.
really the only kind of fundraising experience I had. It was that convertible debenture round that we paid them off in full, plus all the interest and everything else. So the company was really owned 100% by Jim through the merger and acquisition and myself. And
Right.
so there is like when I started myStoria, I did well in this exit, but putting in the money to get it going was still a huge risk. It wasn't 5% of my net worth that I was
Of
putting
course.
in, and it was quite a bit. And so I was all in from day one on whatever we had to do this right. And I had learned kind of mistakes from my previous company, what not to do, what to do, and tried to kind of course correct and learn from those mistakes in the first little bit. So, um, can you help me? Can you just ask me a couple more direct questions? I kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, I was just asking what was the difference between um, being the one backing your own project with your own finances, at least at the start, and having those first finances from someone else. Did you ever face any issues in the direction of the company, in the decision making, into having investors maybe trying to go a certain direction that didn't really align with yourself? And if you did, how did you work out, out of those tough situations? We say bring an investor in. I used to have an advisor who had a kind of raw but very real expression, was that bring an investor in is bring in someone in your house that will piss in your toilets. So if they keep
Yeah.
it clean, it's great because it's a great flatmate and they bring a lot of things. If they don't keep it clean, it's very, very, very quickly messy. So did you ever have, say, a few droplets around, or did they
You
keep it
know,
clean all the time?
Yeah, so TrafficSoda was a different experience. I originally had a co-founder who was awesome. We were very different skill sets, but we disagreed on certain aspects of it. So I ended up buying him out in TrafficSoda. And then kind of moving forward with that and paying off investors to, number one, be able to kind of own the company outright, but number two, because that we had the ability to with kind of building it off revenue and through the convertible debenture. So that was kind of like a experience there. In terms of myStoria, honestly, I am super lucky. I mean, I've built the relationship here, but I'm super lucky to have Carol in my corner and Christine. They are like
Right.
all in on understanding. They've been founders, they've exited companies before, they're investors, they've been on boards. Like they're so experienced in that, and they're so founder friendly, initial investors, but investors in general. So it has been like I'm very, very lucky to have them in my corner. They are awesome. They're
Right.
amazing at this. So there's not really been at all any of those kind of issues that I've heard with them, and even with our seed investors and who's come in the institutional rounds.
Beautiful.
And I'm sure in part because I've built a really solid relationships in the tech environment, tech community over the
Right.
years, but truly I've lucked out in terms of who's in on myStoria with us.
So building a relationship, it relates to the whole image. We used to say, you first meet, you date, then you get engaged, and then you get married. Marriage being the whole investment. So you put a lot of emphasis on taking the time to prepare the relationship with your investors. So it's not just investor relations, it's also pre-investor relations that you're putting an accent
Yeah.
on. About if you don't mind sharing about this, the buyout of your co-founder, did it happen well? Were they happy with it because they felt that it was for the best of the company to do that buyout at the moment, or were there any friction in doing this? And how do you go through this? Because there's many founders out there, including myself. My previous company ended because of a separation between founders, but it's very common out there to feel that some founders could either they don't necessarily match with their co-founder anymore, the vision is different, or they don't do as much as they thought they were going to do. So they think, hey, do I just shut down the whole operations, buy the IP in secret, and spin it out, or Phoenix it back up, or do I just approach them? So how did you tackle this?
It was very difficult, like very difficult. First, because he had brought the idea or the principle of this concept to me. Like he is one saying, here's this idea. I really want to kind of come in and let's do this together.
Mm-hmm.
And had taught me a lot. I mean, at this point I was 22 years old. Like I was so young, so learning so much. And all of a sudden had a company with investors, employees who depended on us to pay their bills, pay their house rent, their mortgages, whatever else it is. And we just were not seeing eye to eye. And so it really came down to a point where it was like, you have to leave or I have to leave because like together this is not working out. And I don't know what it is, but like I worked for a startup right out of university, and I just like I fell in love with the hustle. I didn't know what else I would ever want to
Mm-hmm.
do other than either working for a company as employee number 1 or 2 or whatever, or starting
Doing it
my own thing
yourself.
and running it. Yeah. And
Right.
so I was really leaning into like, I'll take it over. Like, I'm good. I'll take it over. I'll run with it and I'll build it. And so there was a ton of tension. There was a ton of kind of like hard feelings throughout that process.
He has
But it
to
was the
leave
right,
his own baby go in a way. I understand.
yeah, exactly. And it was the right thing for all stakeholders involved for one of us to take it and run with it. So
Mm-hmm.
Um, to this day, I'm super thankful for him, introducing me to the idea of what we could build and, teaching me and taking me along for a ride. And I'm super thankful for the two of us, that the ability for us to have and come together and say, who's going to take this over and let's like figure this out. But it was like very, very, very difficult for a period of time. And it was a lot of transition. And I remember actually when everything went through, the check was written, all the documents were signed. I remember looking at my team and just like, okay, now this is all on me. And it just like
Mm-hmm.
changed something in me to say, okay, I need to figure out how to get this amount of cash in per month, and I need to build this thing out and need to hit milestones. And that period of time in between then and then merging with Jim and his business was chaotic. Like I just feel like it was like 100-hour weeks. Like I don't know what was happening during that time. It felt like it just happened so quickly. But we survived. We made it. We got through that period and built and continued to build. And then a lot changed when I merged the business with Jim. That first one, yeah.
W- w- So, what were the key learnings from, say, if you had to do it again, say, hypothetical scenario, you create a new company with a co-founder, the same kind of happens, unlucky, division has to split. What would you do differently to make sure that this split can happen more smoothly than the way it happened the first time? Kind of an advice, if anyone is going through it right now in our audience, what would you advise them?
I honestly, I'd go back to, because I didn't really do this before, is the like dating before you get married, and almost like the prenup analogy is like figure out what's kind of going on together, what what happens if you don't get along, have all those scenarios kind of laid out. Um I also, made the mistake as well in myStoria, actually, where I brought in a friend to kind of help out in the early days, and you just don't know. Like you're almost like it's such an early concept, and you are so excited about it, and then you just want to go and you want to bring all these people in, and it's like just take a
Mm-hmm.
second and putting everything in writing. Logically looking at like what the next 1, 3, 5 years looks like. Your cap table matters as you try to raise. So like making sure that, percentage of ownership is reflective of value being brought in and contribution. All of that I
Exactly.
think is just very critical in the earliest days, even though you may not realize it, or you think like, well, it doesn't matter right now because we're so small. Like decisions then have a huge impact down the line.
So, anticipate more is really the key
Yeah.
there. I could not remember where I heard this, but when founding a company, if you don't know the shares that you're going to attribute to each, you write down on a whiteboard what are the things we're going to have to do and what is it that we bring in.
Yeah.
And you associate to all of these a score. Maybe the market outreach, I've got the network, whatever, that's worth 4 points. The technology is worth 4 points, and that's on you. IP is 2 points, and that's on you. And then
Love that.
whoever does what, at the end, you have the point system. You put that over 100, and that's the split of the equity. And if you feel like something's wrong and someone wants more, Okay, plead your case. Why should you have
Yeah.
more? But I have the idea. Yeah, but the idea is not much. It's the execution that actually matters. So that's right where you start also
Yeah.
to get the mentality. So prepare
Yeah.
more,
I love that.
prenup, prenup for a company, prenup for a startup. That's
Yeah.
the summary.
Yeah. 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 I
Right.
totally agree. And it, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. You go, please.
Well, I was just going to say, if I feel it, and this is, I'm actually learning as I'm going too, but actually brought in a co-founder to myStoria last year because
Okay.
of that exact thing, like that whiteboard situation of what am I really good at and what can they bring to the table. And so I brought in a co-founder, chief revenue officer to run with the monetization side of the business. And she is amazing. Like this time nailed it, worked out, relied on some of my board to support through this process as well. And it's been night and day, like 100% recommend that. And we really did that kind of point system approach to everything. And it got
Right.
complicated because I've already raised a round, but it's not as simple. But it was a major decision. So the founder, like, that partner in your business is not always a bad thing. It's just setting expectations and being very straightforward from day one.
When you do something like this, so you're bringing what is virtually a late founder because you're already a founder and it becomes a founder.
Yep.
Why going the late founder, lots of equity involved way, rather than say you're just hiring her to be head of sales, for example? What was the key difference in there? What are they bringing that a salary wouldn't justify, let's say? And how was the board thinking about it? Because at this point, are you diluting just your own shares and saying, hey, that's my decision, I'm taking a hit? Or are you issuing more shares and diluting the investors? Are you issuing different types of shares? Like Class A shares, Class B, etc. How do you go about this process?
So why did we bring her? So Holly, my co-founder, is like, if you looked at kind of our skill set, our experiences, we truly are very yin and yang, like very opposite experiences. She's worked for large scaling companies. I've really only ever built and run and sold my own business. We just had extremely yin yang kind of synergies, relationships. At the same time, my mentality has always been to spend smart. And so there was an element there as we negotiated what her entry into myStoria looked like, where, an offset of salary, what you would pay someone with her level of experience and her ability to add value, made sense to bring her in as a co-founder. At the same time, she was also looking for that, to go all in on something for a long period of time and to build. And that really made sense. So there was a number of things that we kind of decision making along the way. And because I'd known my board and my investors for quite a while, I really have always kind of subscribed to the transparent conversations across the board with everyone. We had a lot of really good conversations around the pros, cons, the value, how we would go about it. So it was very a much smoother process than maybe you would otherwise
Gotcha.
think in bringing in a late co-founder.
Because you prepared for it. Again, we come back to this whole anticipation. And so a very last point here, did the shares that Holly get, were those diluted from your own stock, or was it diluted from everyone? So did you issue new shares?
Everyone.
Like how did this happen? And the
We
board was
issued new
happy with
shares,
it.
yeah.
So you managed to pitch her additionality in the business.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's very interesting
100%.
because
Everyone was on board.
how do you what we do at on Fundraising Insiders, we tackle the topics of pitch deck. The mother company, Pitch Deck Creators, creates pitch deck. So far, a pitch deck it makes sense, but we're pitching a business. Although in a business you are pitching a team, it's a whole part of it, especially at the early stage. Here, you went to your investors and you were only pitching the person. How do you pitch a person, and how does that differ from pitching a business? Because you also have to say there's a problem, there's a solution. The solution in this case, and the product. I don't want to objectify anyone, but the product in this case, to answer the solution, is the person. You're also addressing a market, and you have your financial projections. They are bringing in the ability to go higher. So did you think about it? You even build a pitch deck of that person? How did you go about this process?
How did I go about the process? I didn't build a pitch deck or kind of like put together this formal conversation. It was really looking at where we wanted to go realistically, like what my skill sets were and where I needed to spend time on. I was starting to become very stretched thin and trying to kind of move myself across too many different aspects of the business. And my Holly is also well known. She used to work for my current investors, so they knew her as well. So I didn't. It was really a
Right.
luck thing. Like they knew her. They knew what she could do. They've seen the value she can bring. We had long conversations as well about like her and I again about like what you're good at, what I'm good at, how do we make this work, what does the structure of your deal coming in look like. And so it was really kind of a joint conversation right from the get-go because there was a pre-established relationship. I cannot emphasize enough like the technology community that I've kind of like happened to get myself into post university, and the timing of that has been like transformative for me for my
Perfect.
career in entrepreneurship. Yeah. Yeah.
So the importance of a solid network.
It's huge, and maintaining and respecting that network.
I feel there's a vibe alongside your journey, which is just very human in the end. You're talking about technology. You're talking about, um, uh, well, you come from a sector that is very different to the sector that you're in. But throughout your process, you kept a vision of your own problems, which is very human. Fertility is at the basis of the human, of course. Um, we're
Yep.
talking about how to engage with people. Of course, we made the metaphor with the prenup and the wedding, but here again, you're opting for transparency is a word that came through a couple of times. You didn't pitch that person and ended up being very organic. Can you be too transparent? Is that something that can happen? Have you ever felt a time where you thought maybe this time I should have been maybe a bit more protective? Or did you feel like sometimes you opened up too much? Or were you ever vulnerable by being too honest, too transparent, too human in your approach to building a business?
I feel like the right answer to that is yes. There's a point in time where you need to like compose yourself, but I it's I mean, like, I'm TMI about all my healthcare stuff that I've gone through my journey and everything with my fertility. Like, I'm not good at that aspect of it, I'd say. I don't even know if not good is the right way to approach it, but I feel like as I go and as I learn in these next stages, I'm sure there's going to be a point in time where, you almost like not, it's not that you're not transparent, but you're like figuring something out maybe and figuring out solutions or whatever prior to addressing something with your board or with whoever. But at this moment, like, I am very much like, we're all in this together. They have entrusted me with a lot of money and time and resources, and I owe them that level of transparency, but also the fact that like they're all in on this with me too, and I can ask for support and help. And I I've surrounded myself, I think, with the mentorship and investors that want that out of their founders too, and maybe there's more of that founder investor fit there. But from my experience so far, it has not bit me in the butt. Maybe it will in the future.
You
Learning
don't
as I
know.
go still. Yeah. Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm being conscious of time. I mean, we could
Sorry.
go about this format the entire hour or even more, but I'm being conscious here. And to be fair, I'm thinking of many other topics. Maybe we can do an episode too. Who knows? Who knows?
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
we have covered the first part, which is TrafficSoda, building the new company, the transition. We've talked about the M&A. So we didn't really talk about the actual exit itself, but that could be a topic for another time. I think that is something we'll want to tackle because seed, pre-seed, Series A, that's something. An exit is not something that you hear all the time. Actually, not that often. But I want to keep a little bit. That's it. I'm taking the executive decision that we're going to do an episode 2. If you're fine with this, are you happy to do this?
Yes. Sounds great.
And
I'm all in.
if you're happy with this, what we're going to do is that I will do only the first half of part 2, the rapid fire questions. So it gives us a bit more time to expand. And I'll keep the other half for episode 2. That way we kind of put together 2 50 minutes-ish episodes, and that will go for the whole show. Happy with that?
Okay. Yeah. That sounds like a plan.
Beautiful. Now, for this part 2, actually, you have the choice again. This is a bit your episode. You're crafting it as we go. 2 options. Either we go with the rapid fire question segment, this or that. So option A, option B, or yes or no. What are you feeling like today?
Surprise me. I'm good with whatever you throw at me.
All right. Well, we'll just go with the first one that appears on my prep notes,
Okay,
and that is
perfect.
the this or that format. So,
Okay.
are you ready? Roughly 1 minute, roughly 10 questions. Again, this is freestyle. If it lasts a bit over, I'm not going to stop you or kick you out of the session. We'll just go with it. The idea is just try to get the answers like that. All right?
Okay.
Happy?
Yeah.
There
Yep.
we go. 3, 2, 1. Bootstraps or funded?
Bootstrap.
Finding a lead investor first or attract leads with co-investors?
Lead first.
Deck first or call first?
Deck first.
Warm introduction or cold outreach but bigger volume?
Warm introduction.
Raise now or wait for traction?
Wait for traction.
Angel or institutional?
Start angel. Angel.
All right. Exit and restart or stay in and scale?
I'm from personal experience. Exit and restart. Exit and restart is great, but with this one, I want to scale.
All right. Generalist fund or industry-focused boutique fund?
Boutique fund has been great for me.
Prefer leading the negotiations yourself, setting the terms for the investment, or being more reactive to what comes to you with the investors?
I think reactive builds trust together. And so working together to set those terms.
Revenue or retention as your primary de-risking signal?
Retention.
All right. And the last one, pitch deck built in-house or anyone to support?
In-house.
In-house.
In-house for sure.
Beautiful. That's it. We can breathe.
All right. Those are tough questions.
When I say trust the chef, it doesn't mean that the whole menu is going to be an easy swallow. Sometimes you'll be figuring, what do I start with? Those are new savors and flavors. So you had one of those that I was very much waiting for. And I think this is the one that I want to discuss for the last couple of minutes. Exit and restart or stay and scale. If we take this from an external perspective, if you say exit and restart and your investors are hearing this, they're thinking, wait, I need to keep my founder. Just stay here. Where are you trying to go?
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
You said with this one, I want to scale. So why is it that sometimes you want to exit and restart? And what can be a good argument behind it? And why do you want to scale this one? I suppose it will have to do with the personal aspect, but run us through that.
So when you asked me that, I think I was like looking back on all the things I've learned to set me up for more success in this one. And so that exit and restart, like that first experience has brought me a lot of opportunity to take this as long as I possibly can, build it off of, bootstrapping it as long as I can, and then bringing those angels, institutional investors when I needed to build that to go faster to scale. And so like that was really kind of a portion of some of the questions that you've asked me that I stumbled on which one, and depends on scenario. But in this particular case, this company is like, it is solving my own problem. It means it's such a deeply personal mission for me. And I see the role of the patient in their own healthcare journey being such a massive opportunity to help them do the job they have to do even better. And I think like this, in Canada and the US, there's a huge challenge with navigating the healthcare system. I don't know about Europe as much, but I've been in both the Canadian healthcare systems or US healthcare systems. And I want to fundamentally change how the doctors, how the healthcare system sees the patient showing up to their own care, and improve, by doing that, improve how the industry values the patient and their effectiveness. And the effective role that they play. And so that for me is $1 billion opportunity idea to really impact an industry. But bigger than that is helping patients in people in the most trialing situations, get relief, get better help, support getting to diagnoses faster, support getting treatment faster. We've had people reach out to me personally and say, like, I've been trying for 8 years and I finally am pregnant, or I finally have my living child in my hands, or I'm finally at a place where like I got a diagnosis after years of pain. And for me, like that lights such a fire under me. And so this one is, I'm all in. I'm all in until the end of time, like until whatever happens for us in the future. But this one is, I'm here to scale, and I've taken everything I've learned from my previous business to kind of set me up for as much success here as much as I can, and surrounded myself with people that can supplement things I don't have experience on or I'm learning as I go.
Are you saying that because there's more impact, and maybe the impact is more easy to grasp here because you're having direct impact on people, whereas with your previous company, I'm not saying there was absolutely no impact, but it's less personal. Do you feel more drive, and do you feel like should this one scale, IPO, the best everything happens, and you want to start something else again, would you be looking for an idea that again has that very personal impact, and is that really what's driving you, the impact aspect?
Yeah, uh, I forget which investor said this, but like, basically, like, I'm trying to build something that solved something that you've gone through in your own problem is just very motivating and I'm a very, I guess, purpose-driven founder. And I loved what I was doing previously with TrafficSoda, and we were able to help a ton of different businesses and build that. And I loved the team that I was working with. This for me is, I wake up every day so excited to help support change someone's life and to really impact, like, you know, some of the biggest things in healthcare. And I'm living it through even dealing with loved ones and their own healthcare journeys and being a caregiver for them on the top of going through my own journey. And so there's that aspect of it. In the future, yeah, I think I mean, as and when this thing grows and whatever, and say there's an exit or whatever that happens, purpose-driven mission and projects are really where I think I'll always stay.
How do you transfer the passion outside of just, telling your story? And I can feel the passion, and I believe that anyone with a heart and a brain understand how much this can affect someone. But is there anything specific that you used, maybe not explicitly, but did you feel like transmitting your passion was at the core of how you were trying to raise? Did you place it at the core of your fundraising process intentionally? Or did it just, the passion just transferred because of the way you pitched? So did you build your pitch around the passion and then present it that it was financially viable? Or did you show, hey, it's financially viable, but behind that, it's a project that I care about? How did you balance those two, the reason and the passion?
This is part of, I guess, where my pitch deck evolved quite a bit, but one thing stayed true in that I led with my story. And in the beginning of my pitch deck, I think slide 2, or as I went through the deck, was like, I spent 6 years and over $100,000 personally trying to have a baby, and it didn't work out. And I know what it's like to go through this process, and I'm solving my own problems. That for me got into investors' ear and like leaning into the conversation. But I learned over time, and as I was refining my pitch, I had to quickly transition into like, okay, there's this idea. It's going to scale to be, this larger business, not just in fertility and reproductive health, but in any sort of complex care settings. And this is how we're doing it. So I really did make it at the heart of it. And I've been told, and I do feel it. And I think I'm happy that people feel it, is that I bring that energy and that passion into those conversations with investors. And this is like personal. It's not just business. It's personal for me to kind of solve for this problem.
Did you feel, because I feel like what you're saying is that you can use it as a hook because there's a human aspect behind it. And even when you address a fund, a company, a CVC, a factory, an industry, whatever, there's a human listening until AI picks over. But as far as I'm aware for now, it's a human.
Fair.
So you're using the hook, but there's a right balance of not dangling the hook for too long. Otherwise the fish goes away. You need to very quickly plug in the business aspect. Is this something that you felt going from your pre-seed to your seeds, that the shift to show the scalability was getting bigger? And is that something that you're also preparing for your Series A, that the personal founder story might get maybe slimmer and you'll have to go more on the whole growth? Because at the start, when it's an angel passion invests. When you're becoming more institutional, VC, even CVC later, growth equity, debt, bank, whatever, they want to make money. As cool of a project as it is, they want to make money. So are you feeling that evolution already right now at the seed stage? Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah. So just on that point directly, like, one of the things I learned as I went was I'm not saying that hook to get empathy. Like, that's not what I want people to like listen to the rest of the pitch deck and feel bad for me. I want them to know that like I deeply understand the problem. And so there was a fine balance of how I actually set that hook. Yeah. So outside of that though, yeah, like outside of someone understanding like I've lived this problem and now I'm solving it, the rest is this is a viable business and we've got traction and this is what we're looking at. And that was really where outside of that first initial quick like 10-second relation to my own story, the rest was all about how the business is viable and how we're going to build it out.
It's very easy
I
in a
think I've
passion
answered your question.
project. It does. It does.
Yeah.
It's very easy for a passion project to get stuck in your own tunnel vision, and because you're convinced, because you are your own customer, that you can forget about other customers, how they feel, but also forget the business aspect. Have you ever felt a point where you thought maybe the passion was taking over the financials, or that you had left the financials a bit aside, and that's how you evolved? You say your pitch deck evolved. Is that also because the financial vision evolved as you went through and you thought, okay, let's take the passion, not take the passion out, but try to take a step back and think as an outside person, say that I don't care about the impact of this and just the finances. How do I position this?
Yeah, a couple of things. When I started myStoria on my own prior to raising any funds with my own fund money, I reached out to I want to say about like 200 people that were going through their own fertility journey to kind of understand is my problems what I've experienced, what they've experienced. And then I talked to others that were in healthcare journeys that were adjacent or not infertility. So a few like someone going through cancer care, heart disease, a few other different aspects, and asked what their challenges were in the healthcare system. And there was a number of commonalities. So I tried from day one, and I learned it from my previous business to not get that tunnel vision,
Right.
to assume everyone feels the same way, and to ask and to kind of co-design the solution as we go. The only thing I'd say that I think I learned along the way is the fertility patient that's in the depths of chaos, the way that I was, and in that moment, I quickly realized was not everyone. Like there's others that are wanting to kind of work with the doctors and listen to the doctors. And I was very much like,
Mhm.
we're working together on this. I'm not just listening to you. We're working together. And so I think I've learned, not the hard way, but I learned pretty quickly that I had a bit of tunnel vision in that everyone was
Okay.
as
Their
leaning
own
in as I
experience.
was in that particular journey. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So again, we go back to the same thing, anticipation. Before assuming a market, before assuming behavioral of your customers, being able to do all this. I'm seeing we are reaching the end of the available time we have together, and I
Yeah.
still have tons of questions. I think that your entrepreneurial journey is not only one company, but it's many things in one. There's the bringing in a co-founder, there's an exit slash M&A merger. Um, there is so much more to discuss, and I'm very happy that we got all of this. One of the questions I didn't ask is, we having a good time on the show? Is that
Totally. Yeah, this has been a great conversation. 100%. We've overcame some technical issues. We're here. You've
yes?
been a pleasure to chat with, and pulling information out of me too, because there's been so much that's gone on that I appreciate how you've interviewed me. So this has been awesome.
Well, I hope this also helps. We also try to make those to take people out of their own tunnel vision, taking a bit of a step back. What we do at Pitch Deck Creators when we help people supporting the pitch deck, but also just designing the whole fundraising strategy, because it's not just about the deck, but your GTM, how you approach investors, etc. Especially for people who
Yep.
didn't have that first experience like you did, um, is accompanying people, bringing them along, and taking that step back. And that's the hardest thing. And myself, when I left my own
It is.
company, the first thing I did, but not intentionally, it's just it happens that when you're out of it, you are out of it also physically. You have a different vision, you have different judgment, etc. And that's what we try to bring along. So I'm very happy that you managed to show that there are ways of doing it yourself as well from the inside, to get outside from the inside, create that um that airlock between the hustle and that external standpoint that you need to preserve when you go in your project, to avoid being stuck in there. Um,
Yeah.
I would you
If you have,
yes,
sorry, if I can take 10 seconds here, you would ask
yes,
me directly, would you do pitch deck internally or get some support for external? I said
yes.
internal, but to be fair, and I actually, looking back at this, I had mentors at accelerators that were willing and able to give me advice. I had Carol in on that from giving me advice from day one, and Christine. And so that's actually not fair for me to say I just did it internally. I had all these external people taking a look at stuff. So I just wanted to call that out, that I think I
Sure.
didn't answer that question fairly.
I appreciate the honesty a lot. To be fair, it's not like something you can guess. Well, you could do a PhD about how to build a pitch deck and start from scratch, and eventually,
Yeah.
I mean, it's all logical. I think that if you took a bunch of people, smart people, put them in a box, and they've never built a company, at the end, if you just dissect things out, a pitch deck is a very logical thing. It's, hey, there is this problem
Yep.
and there's the solution. We're gonna sell it to those guys for that price, and that's why I'm the best person to do it. And if we achieve the market and the pricing, we're gonna get those financial projections. The story is natural, but it doesn't come natural to everyone. And sometimes you need a bit of help, whether
No.
that's a mentor or something. And that's why we try to bring
Totally.
all in one without having to go through the entire journey. Usually, I would ask you
Yeah.
to tell us more about if you're going to any live event soon, if anywhere that you'll be that investors can meet you, or other founders, etc. If you want to nominate someone for another episode, but we will keep that for part 2.
Okay.
So that way
Sounds
you can
good.
also run to your next meeting, because you're very busy for a very, very, very noble cause. So again, Jessica, thank you so much for this part 1,
Thank you.
and I will hear you in
Likewise.
part 2. Really looking forward for that.
Likewise. I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks again.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye bye.